Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back your Disrupt MC and TechCrunch senior writer, Jordan Crook.
Oh, the excitement is palpable. Hey, Sam. What's up, dude? Okay, narcissism is not something that I'm unfamiliar with, but I think that it is also something that Silicon Valley is pretty familiar with as well. We think that all the tech talent in the world is already here. That's just not the case. Our next speaker is going to share a little bit more about that. Please welcome to the stage Andela's Christina Sass and our moderator, Katie Roof.
Thank you. All right.
I'm pleased to welcome Christina Sass, co-founder and COO of Andela, a startup finding the best and brightest minds in Africa and placing them in U.S. tech companies here. Thanks for joining us, Christina.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So Andela has a pretty unique approach here. You turn to Africa for finding some smart developers.
Right.
Why are you focused on the African region?
We're focused on finding absolute world-class talent in really untapped markets. And so we started, one of our co-founders is Nigerian. We started in a market with 168 million people where we knew that there would be true untapped brilliance. And when we started, we put out a pilot saying, you know, would you be interested? Are you passionate about technology? We got 700 applicants to our first class. We recruited that from Twitter alone. And so we knew we were onto something. And today we've had over 45,000 applications to be one of our 200, just about 200 software developers. And I can't say enough about the incredible talent that we have found in Lagos, in Nairobi, and now across the continent.
So 45,000 applicants for about 200 spots.
Yes.
I understand you have a pretty extensive process for getting admitted into the program. Can you tell us what it takes to get into Andela?
We do. Actually, all the co-founders now joke that we're damn glad we started this because it's debatable as to whether or not we'd make it in the program today. So the one recruitment cycle starts with about 1,000 applicants. We send them a logical reasoning problem-solving test. And that tells us both what kind of a problem solver they are, and then it also tells us about their work style, their work ethic, their drive, and their aptitude. And so we look at the results of that, and we're constantly refining what we look for based on how our top performers did on that exact same test when they took it. So we're constantly tweaking. We look at that. We send them something called Proctor, which is a home study test that we've designed that our engineering team has built. We look at how many times they take the test, how driven they are about it, what their test results are. And then we bring in about 75 for an in-person interview, test for values match, soft skills. And then from those 75, we bring in 25 for a 2-week boot camp. And during that time, we tell them we're looking at everything. How do you do on the technical side? How do you incorporate feedback that you're given? Do you pick up your trash? Are you a part of this community? Are you interested in being a part of a movement, not just a job? And then so from the 25-person boot camp, we hire about 6 to 8 people. So it's a 0.7%, under 0.7% acceptance rate.
That's a pretty lengthy process.
It is. But we invest heavily in finding true Andelans.
So what do you think is motivating all these people to apply? Is it the perks? Is it more money?
You know, there's thriving tech scenes across Africa in you know, where we are in Yaba. It's kind of the tech hub, the CC hub there. There's just incredible entrepreneurs, a lot of interesting, you know, tech startups. And so people are just hungry and passionate about this as a career path. And similarly in Nairobi, birthplace of mobile money, there's just, you know, a lot of interesting startups there, incredible training that's going on. And so we find that this is really a career path that a lot of young people not only want, but are willing to fight for, are incredibly driven to pursue.
And you mentioned one of your co-founders, E. He was very instrumental in getting the word out. He's great in the African tech scene, but he departed the company recently. So how are you going to keep up the momentum without him?
He did. E is a force of nature. E is Ianolua Aboyeji. And he really, to his credit, those 45,000 applications are mostly him just wearing out shoe leather, just beating down everyone's door to tell them about Andela. So it's bittersweet for us, but part of the point in starting Andela is to hopefully see lots of thriving businesses come out of our 4-year program. And so, E's found something that he is driven, and he's going to crush it. His company's called Flutterwave, and all of the founding team members have invested. And so what are we going to do? It's impossible shoes to fill, but we have robust recruitment teams. We're here at Disrupt and everywhere else, and on every possible social media channel, telling people, if you're passionate about technology, you're willing to work hard, please apply. Luckily, Ease will never fully be rid of us, so he is also still spreading the word, even as he's hustling to build Flutterwave.
So you're parted on good terms. That's good to hear. But so it's important to note that you're not a nonprofit. It sounds like it because you have such an idealistic mission. But how do you make money? You're backed by Mark Zuckerberg, Google Ventures. So what's your business model here?
The business model is that growing tech teams who need extraordinary talent hire Andela, and they hire us for a full-time, fully integrated team member. So you are a high-growth startup. Your product manager is behind. He needs to get something out the door and comes to Andela to look for talent. They come to us because we can onboard people very rapidly and because of the selection process. Sometimes software developers are hard to keep. They're hard to keep motivated. And we can say, look, we've looked through 45,000, literally, applications for this kind of talent. We're also consistently listening to client feedback, and there's a clear feedback loop between the first 6 months of the fellowship is very intensive. It's like master's level training. And what we spend our time on in that 6 months is exactly what clients say that they want in terms of business soft skills, attention to detail, managing complex stakeholders, all of these kind of things that you must have to build great products. And so we focus on that as well as the most cutting-edge technical skills. And so companies come to us because they need talent. They need it now. And
So to be clear, the developers are employed by Andela.
Correct.
So you get contracts with companies like IBM, Microsoft, some other startups in the US. They pay Andela. You take a cut of that, and then the rest goes to the developers. Is that how it works?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
They are. So we've got any software developer that works for Andela is a full-time team member at Andela, and they're also fully integrated into their company. So they're a part of our community. They orient with those teams on site, and so we've got two developers in the States right now. One's with a company called Everplans in New York, and another one's out in Jersey. And it's awesome to see them come orient, really become fully integrated team members. And then, so they'll do that for 2 to 6 weeks a year, or during a sprint or an important time. And then the rest of their time, they work remotely from our tech campuses in Lagos or in Nairobi. Yep.
So what do you think is motivating these companies to turn to Andela to find these developers?
What they tell us is speed to onboarding and ramping up, getting up to speed, and the quality of the talent, both in soft skills and their technical abilities. We help companies build better products faster.
So they're definitely smart. Do you think there's any chance that it maybe it costs less to pay these developers? I mean, because the cost of living is lower in Africa, so they don't have to pay quite as much. Maybe that might be a factor.
It could be. It could be. Yes, it is great talent for great value. But we truly think that this is a win-win. A company gets a full, an English-speaking absolute top talent. If they need, more developers on a project, we can have them roll on quickly. And then for the developer, it's really a holistic. Most of our developers live on campus. It's full immersion for 4 years, and we tell them, we expect you to, in the words of my business partner and dear friend Jeremy Johnson, throw yourselves at this for 4 years. And at the end of it, you are collecting a salary the entire time, so you get world-class experience in growing tech teams all over the world without debt, without leaving home, and with all of that experience to bring back to their communities. Yeah.
I mean, there's no question these are smart, personable people. I've met some of them. You brought them here. You brought them to our hackathon.
We did. We did.
And so, but they're living in Africa while they're working for these U.S. tech companies. What do you do to make sure they're integrated into the company culture? They actually built something here at the hackathon to help with that. Can you expand upon that?
I'd love to. I'd love to. So when we say fully integrated, it means that they come, that's why they orient in person. What's the culture like? What are your stand-ups like? You know, how important is one factor over another? So they're taking in all of that, and they fully integrate into teams. It is, distributed work requires extra energy, attention, and focus. And so the team, the Andela team here at the hackathon, built a tool to help us and other companies do just this. It's called Imprompt.io. And so it is integrated with Amazon's Alexa. And the concept behind it is, you and I are at the water cooler chatting, and we come up with a great idea. But we need Tolu to execute on this, or she's a part of the team, and she's in Lagos. So you can do a voice command to Alexa and say, hey, Alexa, is Tolu online? Is she working? And then it will check her calendar and see if she is available and is online. It will open up a Slack room and see if she's on video at her computer so that we can join her into the conversation right away. And then it also transcribes our entire conversation and Slacks it to her. So those are the kind of tools that enable companies to not just be productive as distributed teams, but to thrive. It's such a cool tool, and I can't believe they did that in 24 hours, and it was an awesome experience. Thank you for having us at the hackathon.
I think we could use that at TechCrunch
Right?
with people all over the world. So.
Yeah.
And so what else are you doing to help make sure they're the right cultural fit? Because part of the Andela program is you want them to learn about what it's like to work at these tech companies. So don't you send them for a couple of weeks to the U.S. before they get started on their project? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So as a part of every client engagement, we ensure that they really spend time getting to know the team. And actually, I'd love to just tell you how this started. So we've got one of our Class 2 developers. Her name is Tolu Komolafe. She's from Lagos, Nigeria. And Tolu, are you here? She's here with me. I love having her here for events. She's somewhere out there.
She's
anyway.
Great.
So Tolu started working remotely with Everplans in February of 2015 and was such an integrated team member, such a core member of their team, that by July, the company called us and they said, we're launching a product. We need her and her partner here. We need them here. This is not something that we had considered. And we were like, this is great. That's amazing that they're adding such value. We got ourselves together, got the visas, brought them over, and sure enough, that was a very successful, product launch in time for them, and it was such important, like cross-cultural understanding, team building. They were, so productive, and the relationships developed so well that we've added this as, a core part of every client engagement. And y'all, Tolu is she's like 5'0", this sassy, incredibly bright Nigerian woman, and she really embodies kind of the core of the model, like why we exist. When we found her, she had a 4-year computer science degree, but it was quite disconnected from what actual clients in that market needed and wanted, just the languages she was learning and those kind of things. So, we recruited her in July of 2014. By that December, she was teaching basically one of the instructors in the boot camp that she was in July. I know that because I was a boot camper in that boot camp. Very humbling experience. By February, she was placed on client work. They were so happy with her work that by July, they asked her to come over, and now she's back for her second, a year later, she's back for a month and a half helping them to develop a new feature. At Andela, we think the fact that she had a 4-year degree and was seeking a job at that time, but there wasn't really, an obvious place for her in that marketplace, that is just unacceptable. In this global marketplace, she is extraordinary talent. There's absolutely no reason that she should not be doing what she is now within 7 months, just crushing it at a company in a high-growth tech startup in New York.
And so when we were chatting last night, we talked a little bit about the cultural differences and some of the challenges in convincing people in Africa that tech is a good career path. You have your campuses in Nigeria and Kenya, but you're trying to convince people all over Africa to join the movement.
We are.
So what are you doing, and what challenges have you run into?
So we've now had applicants from 12 or 13 countries, and we have developers from Togo, from Tanzania, from Sudan, from Uganda, and I mean, they're just, so the word is spreading. Right now we have regional centers, and we can't wait. We're looking at, we're eagerly looking at where to expand next. So just getting the word out, letting people know that this is, a career path that we'd be excited to have them apply, particularly young women. We're just using every channel possible to get the word out.
So where would you expand next?
So we're looking at other tech hubs. So in South Africa, there's a lot of energy and excitement in both Joburg and Cape Town, in Accra. We've seen a lot of extraordinary developers come out of Uganda, and we've got a couple really strong developers that are mobilizing all of their communities. So those are some of the places that we're looking.
One thing that interests me about this program is they're not meant to be employees of Andela forever. You want them to learn from these US tech companies and release them into the African ecosystem later and start their own startups.
Yep.
How does that work?
Yes.
What are you doing to ensure that they move beyond this and start their own businesses?
Yeah. It's a great question. So yes, this is, right now we're heads down, building the core 4-year fellowship to add as much value to them in that time period as possible. But the goal, the long-term goal, is for after those 4 years, for them to be unleashed to really spread and lead the spread of technology across the continent. And so when they get into the 3.5 years, there will be an exit path. And the possible exit paths are entrepreneurship. We fully expect a subset of them to be launching their own companies, and we intend to help them incubate and invest in them. Another path would be tech leadership, so kind of the CTO path to really help growing tech companies. A third path is for them to be all kinds of advisors to governments, to ICT administrations. And the fourth is to help us scale Andela, to help bring it to other places and help become a part of the leadership team. So that is absolutely our goal, that after those 4 years, I can't wait to see actually what happens.
Yeah, but there's some infrastructure problems in Africa. You've mentioned that it's hard to get internet in a lot of places in Africa. Are you working with the government or other organizations to help improve African access to technology?
We certainly do all kinds of advocacy around, every time they build a new road, they should just lay the fiber cable, so we advocate for that. But really, we have been utterly focused on how we create tech campuses for our developers to thrive. And so what that means is that our investors fully understand, they have been to visit, and they know that we had to build big. We had to lay the fiber cable right into the building. We have, we have a huge generator, and then a backup generator, and then an inverter for that generator, and that really allows us to have business continuity, and that's critical. For operating in these environments, you really have to go big and do it with a degree of quality, and our operations team there is just extraordinary. They've done an incredible job.
And so one of your investors, Mark Zuckerberg, who invested through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, he recently visited one of the Andela campuses in Africa. I watched a video. They were all so excited to meet Mark. How close are you with your investors? Are they hands-on? Are they giving you advice? Or how do you work with them?
We have awesome investors. We just had an event last night at the Spark Capital offices. They really, I can't say enough about how they are on this mission. They are a part of this movement with us. They use the words we, us at all times. And of course, we're thrilled to be building this relationship with Chan Zuckerberg. On his first visit to the continent, it was just an absolute game changer that within an hour of landing, he was walking into our office in Lagos, Nigeria. And I wish, Katie, you got to come see it, but I wish I could describe to you the feeling in that room. It was just, palpable. We've said to all of our applicants, especially in the early days, we didn't have so much as a card or a website, and we said, we are going to tell the entire world about the caliber of your talent. And in an instant, that just became incredibly real to them the second that he walked in. That the partnership is real, that he believes in them, is validating all of their talent. It was an awesome day for us.
I bet. But one of the things about taking money from investors is they eventually want liquidity of some sort. Do you see yourself as eventually a public company, or could you be acquired? What do you think is the long-term vision of Andela?
We plan to be building this for years and years and years. We're still looking at all possibilities, but like I said, our investors are fully on this journey with us and are looking at when we have our first round of graduates, how many of them stay to help build? What is the possible growth path as we look to expand in other locations? So there's a lot that we're still figuring out. I think the important part is that they're fully partners with us on that journey.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Christina Sass, COO of Andela.
Thank you for having me. This is great. It's great to be here.